Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vanessa and I am an author from Toronto, Canada, and I publish under the pen name Sage. I write mystery, fantasy, some romance now, YA, adult, pretty much anything that sparks my fancy. You will probably find me writing it. And as somebody who has been both self-published and traditionally published, and so far has published 26 books, and we are counting still. I use this channel as kind of a way to connect with other authors, but also to impart any knowledge that I kind of collect over the years, as I've been doing this for many a decades now. And so I thought that I would use whatever that I learned to share with you guys, and that way we can all just learn from each other. I love to see what you've got going on. I read all your comments, any suggestions that you have. I like to review tools and things like that, and pretty much anything that sparks my fancy. So if that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, then make sure that you're subscribed, that you hit the bell notification so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Now, today's video is very, very fun. I'm pretty excited to talk about it because it is directly related to what I am working on right now. But before we get into that, I do want to mention that this beauty, this special collector's edition of Kartega, which is a full volume standalone book that is going to be re-released in next year. But before we do that, there is a Kickstarter and it is starting in less than 2 weeks now. So in the beginning of August, basically like that first week of August, we are going to be launching this baby right here. So it's coming up. It's coming up fast. If you want to follow the project so that you know when it launches, because I can't set concrete dates, there is no like preset date on Kickstarter, so it will launch when I feel like it. But it's coming up. I promise you, it's almost here. So if you do want to follow on Kickstarter, then make sure to give it a follow. Obviously, the more interest that we generate before the launch, the faster that we can launch this project. So this is the book. It is huge. It's massive. It's got beautiful edges. It's got really nice end papers. It's got ribbons. It's got like tabs on the top. It's got interior color artwork. We have chapter headers. It's got the whole thing. And this is just the base part of it. Like this is the main collector's editions, but there's all this other stuff that if we hit stretch goals, we get even more cool stuff. There are very cool things that you can get as add-ons as well. So just check it out. There's a lot that's going to be happening with this. But I'm obsessed with this book. I think it's gorgeous. Like the actual design of the cover is like so 80s cool, and I'm obsessed. So give it a follow. I'll leave the link for you if you feel like it. So with that spiel out of the way, let's talk about what I want to talk about today. And that is writing book 2. Because you guys, I am writing book 2 right now. So if you haven't heard, my Romantasy, I sold it as a series, and it's the first book is on pre-order for next year. We're still obviously doing edits and all that stuff, but again, we'll put the link for you if you feel like checking it out. But City of Beasts, which is the first book in Beasts of Hedge End, is out for pre-order. And since it's out of my hands, my job now is to write book 2. And book 2 is hard, you guys. Writing book 2 is very, very difficult, at least for me, because I kind of have to like reorient myself into this world. And sometimes I have projects in between, right? So my voice changes, and things that I've been thinking about changes, and my hobbies change, and my life changes, and, you know, change. But with that change comes kind of this like immersive experience that you had with writing the first book dissipates a little bit. And now you have to rediscover it somehow. And so I am writing book 2, and I thought we could talk about like a couple of tips for writing the second book in a series, especially if you've taken a break, or if this is the second book in a series that you've written, if you've only done standalones, or if you haven't done anything except the first book, if this is just your second book of your lifetime. I thought we can talk about some tips that I have and kind of what got me going in writing the second book, because like I said, it was tough. like really tough, right? So one of the first things that I really want to make sure I'm doing in book 2, and I think is a great tip, is to reintroduce what happened in book 1 without repeating it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm all about drip information. So if you know me, or if you have been coached by me as a book coach, then you know that I am dead set against info dumping, as most people are. But dripping in information is really, really important. And the same goes for giving your reader, almost like, when you watch like a TV show and then it's previously on. So that previously on, we have to do that in books as well. Depending on how fast you release, or if your reader is not reading the books back to back, they kind of need a refresher of what they've read before so that they can get into the story of the new book without thinking about like, oh, what did I miss and all of that. So you want to kind of reintroduce these concepts. And the best way to do it is through conversation. So people could ask each other questions that kind of spark like a little bit of a recap, but not all at once. Don't give people monologues, but just like a comfortable conversational tone. Inner monologue is great, especially if you have somebody kind of like thinking, like having like deep conversations with themselves, and throwing in a few of the pieces that happen. The most important part that I think, especially when you are reintroducing the previous book, is to keep some mystery. And mystery elements to me are obviously very important because mystery is kind of the core of what I write, no matter what genre it is, or no matter what, I guess genre it is. Anyways, I digress. So you want to keep some of that mystery around. So I treat my reintroduction of what happened in book 1 in the same way that I treat clues in a mystery novel. And so I want to give the reader like just enough that if they haven't read book 1, they're kind of like intrigued and they're not feeling like somebody just summed up the book for them. And then I kind of give them another hint of what happened in book 1, usually through dialogue or through inner monologue, and things like that, right? So don't dump on them, just kind of slowly give them little hints of what they might have missed out. The next thing that I'm trying really hard to do is to evolve my characters, because this is a romantasy and I have a very like specific set of characters, right? Like the couple is they know themselves and they started out knowing themselves, right? And so their arcs was very difficult to develop in book 1 because they were not as there wasn't as much grandeur in their arcs. There was change, and there was more of an arc to their like enemies to friends to enemies to lovers, basically, kind of story. So there was a big arc to that. But they are adults, right? That they're fully formed. There are changes that they go through, but it's not like an YA where there's like these big sprawling arcs of your character going through a coming of age story or something like that. So you want to kind of evolve your characters again. And I was finding it very, very hard to do so at first, until I realized that I could just dig deeper, right? And so your characters don't have to have, again, in book 2, the change to the character arc doesn't have to be so intense, right? It can just be, it can be something else that they're learning about themselves. It can be some small shift that happens to their perspective. And the character arc in this book, while it has to be complete, it can also be a lead-in to like a bigger character arc that kind of happens in the next book or the book after or throughout the series as a whole. But there has to be some change. So something that they have to learn in themselves. And for me, because it's a romantasy, the learning doesn't just have to come from like who the characters are and their own inner, which I mean, initially, yes, it does. But again, I need to have another layered arc to the romance one more time. And so I'm finding that difficult to navigate, but the way that I'm kind of working around it is I'm sticking to the basics, you know. I'm giving each character something, a way that they are at the beginning of the book, the same way that I did for book 1 or any other book that I would write or plot. And then I'm giving them a mirror opposite of where they will end up at the end of the book and slowly working towards that. But there is evolution. And so evolve your characters is my second tip. And raise the stakes. I think this is a given, right? If you're writing a series, every book should raise the stakes more and more and more, especially if it is not especially, but if you have a series that's continuous. So obviously, if you're writing a series where it's shared world and every book can kind of stand on its own, then you might not need to raise the stakes. You can raise the stakes within each book on its own. But because my series that I'm writing is very continuous, one book leads to the next, to the next, to the next, you can't really read them out of order because you'd miss out plot points and, again, that evolution of character arcs. And so I need to raise the stakes in this book. And so in this book, for me, the stakes are a little bit different in both the love of the characters, because they're going to be like really tested about their commitment to one another. And it's a very slow burn, this whole series too. And so we're kind of like toying with the idea of them being together. And so there's going to be things that tear them apart. But the stakes of the whole world and the story is getting bigger too, because in this book we're leaving Hedge End and we're kind of starting to discover more this world that Clara and Willoughby live in. And so you can raise the stakes in both on the character level, but also on the world level. So if you can do both at the same time, then that's even more fun for your characters and for your readers. Then you want to introduce, and this is kind of tip number four. I have notes over here. So 4, yes. Tip 4 is you want to introduce new elements with intention. So if you are adding anything new to this book that wasn't in the book before, there has to be a reason behind it. And a lot of the times that reason is to kind of tie into book 3. So in my book, for example, there's going to be a different kind of play on the magic system here. And that play on the magic system is going to relate to Clara's history. And obviously, no one has read book 1 yet, and so I can't give away spoilers, but there is like a history to our main character that directly relates to kind of what's happening in the world around her, and how she ends up where she is. And so now I need to twist that around, right? So there's going to be like kind of like a new element to the magic system that's going to affect how the rest of the books will play out, and how our dear old Clara and Willoughby are going to tackle those things together. So if you are introducing new elements into the book, don't do it just because you don't want the second book to be kind of like an in-between book or a boring book. Have intention for it and have a plan for those new introductions of the elements that you have. And then tip number 5 is explore bigger themes. So as your series progresses, feel free to play around with the themes that you explore. So you may have started with the theme of like your characters discovering themselves. In my case, it was my characters not only discovering themselves, but also kind of solving a mystery, right? And also like the theme of falling in love with somebody that you swore not to, learning how to trust, all of these kind of themes, right? And these were all character level themes for me. Like even the mystery, I mean, the mystery had to do with the world, but they were still tied into the character levels. So in book 2, I want to look at bigger themes. I want to look at more worldwide themes, themes that would involve not just my characters, but other characters. Themes that involve like the magic system, because it's a very intricate magic system. So in Beasts of Hedge End, the magic stems from these magical gems that grant you a certain power, an alchemical type of power. However, every time you use it, the price you pay is a sliver of your humanity. And so the more you use the gems, the more power that you garnish, but the less of yourself as a human that remains until you are an entirely like a beastly creature with no humanity left whatsoever. And so I want to play on a bigger theme of what that truly means, right? And can somebody who has lost of their humanity, can they be redeemed somehow, right? And that's a theme that I really want to explore in this book, because I kind of want to, I do want to give like a redemption arc to some of these these creatures that are now roaming the world. And so I want to explore more themes of redemption, and of humanity, and what it means to lose yourself and then to gain it back, things like that, right? And I want to explore those themes on both like a micro level from character to character, but also on a big world level. And so consider kind of taking the themes you may have played with in book 1 and really expanding them into like a larger scale in the second book, because I think you will do yourself a disservice if you don't at least attempt to enlarge the perspective of your book. And then my last tip, so tip 6, the six, yes. Can I count? Is to pace your book like it is a standalone. So we talked about kind of continuous and not, but think of it as series wide. And so you want your pacing. So you want to avoid that middle book drag, right? So a lot of times, especially like if you have a trilogy, what you hear a lot is that the second book was kind of like a bridge between the two. And so sometimes pacing is really, really fast in the first book, even faster in the third book, because you're like, the first book is Act 1, the second book is Act 2, and the third book is Act 3. And then that Act 2 book, that middle book, kind of drags, right? And it's hard also because when you're thinking about like when you go from point A to point C, point B, it has to stretch however long you need it to stretch, right? To connect the two, to connect your books in between. But you want to avoid that, right? So you want the book to read like its own book. So if you pace it like a standalone, so if you look at your pacing, and if you're using 3-act structure, whatever structure you're writing in, or just if you're pantsing it and you're looking at pacing in general, you want to kind of start out like slightly slowly and then build until like your pacing goes faster, right? So that there's a change in how you pace, what your beats are, where they hit, what happens in the book, and things like that, so that you're not always just consistently just like telling a story to get from book 1 to book 3, or whatever book you're trying to get to, but that the book itself is paced like a standalone would be, like a full completed story. Everything in your cliffhangers are fine. I would avoid having some major ones, just because as of late it seems like it really aggravates a lot of readers, and in general you don't know when the next book is going to come out, so just you'll be fielding a lot of questions, but either way, like even if you're adding a cliffhanger, the entire like arc of the story, the story itself, it needs to wrap up, right? And in order to do that, you need to figure out your pacing. So you need to have a beginning, middle, and an end for that. So maybe if you think of it as just its own book, like a complete standalone, and add kind of a lead in throughout, almost like clues or red herrings or whatever you want to call them, kind of throughout, and add that little very lightly treated cliffhanger at the end to lead into the next book, then it becomes like a series of books where each one, there's no drag, and each one is just as exciting as the next one. So as far as like top 6 tips, I tend to do just 6 tips for some reason. I don't know why. 5 seems too little, 10 seems like a lot, so we're going 6. So those are kind of like the top 6 tips that I have found really, really helped me so far in writing book 2, and I have just started working it. I'm doing something very different this time, where I'm not plotting the full book. I'm plotting by act. And so right now I'm in Act 1. So I have all of Act 1 plotted, and I am writing Act 1. And when I start kind of to get towards the last like couple of chapters of Act 1, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to plot all of the first half of Act 2 up until the mid one. I'm finding this has been very, very helpful because I'm still getting my plotting done, which I can't work things out without it. But if I need to add some things to kind of foreshadow, I can still do that because I haven't plotted so far ahead that I have to change like 40 chapters of plot. And so it's been giving me that excitement of not knowing where I'm going a little bit, because I have been trying to play around with more plot, like pantsing. But it's still giving me that like plotter kind of need, which is something that I obviously have. So yeah, those are kind of like the tips that I have for you. If you are working on your book 2 of a series, please do let me know in the comments. If you found any other tips that have been working for you with your book 2, do let me know. I am in the middle of this thing and I need all the help I can get. In the meantime, don't forget about this beauty. I know I am just screaming about this book because I'm just so flipping proud of it. Like, it's just so gorgeous. So don't forget, go follow it. And then if you want to show support for City of Beasts, then make sure you check it out in the description as well. And the cover for that one is so good. I'm so excited for that one. I literally can't wait to have like the version of this book in my hands. So with all of that out of the way now, as always, I hope you stay magical, and I will see you next time for another writerly video. Bye.